நம்ம coming. Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Kurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing the Panchadashi, and in the first chapter we just completed the sloka 5, where he analyzed the deep sleep state, and in the deep sleep state I am experiencing and able to recollect in the waking state that I slept very well, number one, and that means I have experience of the deep sleep state, and in that experience I have the experience of the ignorance of the knowledge subject object duality. And therefore, I do not know anything, not a particular ignorance, and absolute ignorance, essentially Mula Vidya, because I do not know myself also in the deep sleep state. So yet, I experience the absence of myself as well as the absence of the everything object. So even to see, indication is, even to know the presence of myself, I need some object now. This has to be very clear here. In the deep sleep state, I have a knowledge of the absence of the subject and the object duality. I don't know anything. So in the deep sleep state, I cannot realize or recognize myself. For me to recognize myself, I need something to recognize. So for me to see my face, I need a mirror. Even though I am there, without the mirror, I cannot see my face. So the same way, I need some reflection of myself for me to see myself, and using the reflection I can recognize myself. I am not bringing my original face, I am only recognizing my face using the reflection. Reflection doesn't bring my original. In the same way, the experience of deep sleep state is indicating to me that I know I am there, and I am conscious of, essentially according to that, the sloka, I am conscious of the experience of my state, deep sleep state, and also I am conscious of the experience of the absence of duality, and I am conscious of the experience of that Ananda, because the absence of suffering is what is Ananda. So I am very happy. That's why everybody wants to go to deep sleep state to experience the happiness, no suffering, no duality, no of any distinctions. Therefore I am comfortably sleep. Only because I cannot continue to sleep all the time, I'll be awakened because of the pressure of vasanas to experience the world, and that's important. So here the deep sleep state experience is indicating several things. Number one, it is Advaitam. The absolute nature is there is no duality whatsoever. I can have duality, but there is an experience of ignorance. That ignorance has to be removed for me to know myself. If the ignorance is removed, then I will have the subject-object duality. So knowledge should be, even when there is a subject-object duality, I should have the knowledge of that I am beyond the subject-object duality, which is pure consciousness. This we will analyze a little bit more in the next few slokas as we go along. So in the next sloka, he summarizes the experience of the deep sleep state and summarizes the whole three states now. Sabodho vishayat bhinnaha, sabodho vishayat bhinnaha, nabodha swapna bodhavatu, nabodha swapna bodhavatu, evam stanatrayopyeka, evam stanatrayopyeka, samvit tadvat dinantare, samvit tadvat dinantare. So here in the first line, first line, sabodho vishayat binnaha naboda swapna bodhavatu. Sabodho vishayat binnaha. So sabodha, that means I have the knowledge of, talking about the deep sleep state, I have the knowledge of the absence of the subject-object duality. That means I have the knowledge of the ignorance of subject-object duality, and that is a knowledge of the object. Object is being here, ignorance itself is an object. So ignorance of the absence of subject-object duality, and so ignorance is a knowledge of the absence, that called the Anupalabdhi Pramanam. Anupalabdhi Pramanam is a recognition of the absence. Just like we gave example, we say there is no pot here. So what do you mean there is no pot here? I don't say there is no Gagabu here, but there is no pot here, because I know what is a pot and I am looking around. I don't see any object with the attributes of potness, and therefore I say there is no pot here. So absence of the object is a knowledge itself, and that's what is called Anupalabdhi Pramana. Of which I know before. I don't say absence of Gagabu, because I don't know what Gagabu you want to say, whether it's absent or present also. So for me to say some object, I should have the prior knowledge of subject-object duality. When I say subject-object duality is absent in the deep sleep state, and that means I have the knowledge of the subject-object duality in the other states, and that's not there in the deep sleep state. So ignorance of the subject-object duality, therefore it is a Mula Vidya that I know, because I can recollect in the waking state, that because now I have instruments for recollection and analysis. Using the analysis, I can say I experience the absence of the object. What is the object? The object is ignorance itself. So sabodha vishayat binnaha. So the knower, the knowledge, the knower of that experience of the ignorance is different from vishaya, the object of experience. Object of experience is the ignorance. So the knower, experiencer is different from experience. The knower is different from the known. There is a duality in that, but I am not conscious of that duality in the deep sleep state, but only when I am awaken, I can recollect, and therefore, and we said law of memory is that experiencer and the recollector has to be one and the same. Nabodha swapna bodhavatu. So in the first half of it is analyzed. Therefore in the deep sleep state also there are two things. One is a knower and another is a known. Even though it's not expressed in the deep sleep state, it can be expressed by recollection in the waking state. So in the waking state, I have a knower-known distinction. In the dream state, I have a knower-known distinction. And in the deep sleep state, I have a knower-known distinction. From the knower-known distinction point, it's the same whether it's a waking state and a dream state and a deep sleep state. But each state differs from the other state. So the waking state different from the dream state that we discussed, because he said the waking state is more permanent and the dream state is only relatively or less permanent compared to waking state. And the deep sleep state is completely different from the waking state, where the duality that is experienced is not expressible in the mind, because the mind itself is folded. So I have no concept of space and time, whereas I have concept of space and time in the dream state. So it does differ from that. I have the concept of space and time in the waking state. Just for the record, the space and time comes with the changing thing. So according to Einsteinian definition, we said that time is the gap between two sequential observations. Gap between two sequential observations. When you say observations, there has to be an observer. And observer cannot be sequential to two different observers. It's the same observer. So that one consciousness that has to be remain the same, that is ekarupa na vidyate. It is one that doesn't change with the observation. So I'm observing one and I'm observing two, and the gap between the two is essentially the time. So in the Bible also it says the sun was created in the third day. So if a smart aleck will ask, how do you know that it is a third day? Because to know it's the first day and second day we needed a sun. So if the sun is created on the third day, there cannot be first day and second day without the sun. So how do we know? So of course you cannot ask those questions to a priest, but according to Vedanta, the sun stands for time here, and therefore the time is originated after these two events. So the first one and the second one, and the gap between the two is the time concept comes into picture. So I need to have two sequential observations to define a time or to recognize the time, that as the third aspect of the creation. So time comes after two series of thoughts. If there is no thought, or if only one experience, so each observation is an experience. So experience one, experience two, and there is a gap between the two, then time concept comes. If you are reading one novel and you are so much involved in the novel, even though in the novel things are changing, it can be considered a single experience of the novel. So from the point of which you lose the concept of time. When you are creatively involved in something, the concept of time is gone until you come back. Oh my God, it's already so much time. All that is because now you are seeing two events, starting event and the ending event. And until then you are not conscious of the changing events that much, and you are deeply involved. Therefore concept of time disappears. So time is a relative from the point of Vedanta also. So there is no time in the deep sleep state. Time is not an absolute. So even we can dismiss the waking state, I am in a different time concept in the dream state. I can go from a small to big in one dream, and where I grow up so much also in dream, and that can happen even though it takes a longer time in the waking state. So the time there, I don't see it is illogical, because the time is relatively valid in that state. And dream time can be different from the waking state. I can go travel all over the world and come back again without seeing that the 7 days I can do it in the dream, where it's all within few hours. So waking in time wise it is few hours, in the dream time is different. And because there the observer and the sequence and the gaps are being measured differently. That is the time. Space is the gap between two simultaneous observations. This is a definition. Time is two sequential observations. Space is gap between two simultaneous observations. When I am seeing 2 points, obviously they are two different, one is not on top of other, they are separated, and the gap is the space. So space concept comes from the mind when I am seeing two things. That's why stereographic projection comes into picture also. So because I have two eyes, and I can see the third dimensional space of depth also because of the two eyes. This is all involved in the science, but basically I need to have two sequential observations. I need for time I need to have simultaneous observations of 2 points at least for defining space. In the deep sleep state, I do not have time, I do not have space, because there is no two sequential observations, there are no two simultaneous observations, one constant observation of the absence of the subject-object duality. are one constant experience of ignorance, and in the ignorance there is no differentiation of ignorance of this or ignorance of that. It is the Mula Vidya. Therefore it's a fundamental ignorance, and therefore no distinctions can be made in the ignorance. In the waking state I can say I don't know chemistry and I don't know biology, but I know physics. So I am making a distinction between the chemistry ignorance and the biology ignorance and knowledge of something. That distinctions, because that's a Thula Vidya, whereas it is a Mula Vidya in the deep sleep state, and that's why it's called Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira is called the fundamental cause for the creation also, causal body. And here it is Sabodho Vishayat Binnaha. So the knower is different from the known in the deep sleep state. Na bodhat swapna bodhavatu. So this it is not the same as the one who is a knower in the dream state, and the one in the knower in this dream state is not the same as the knower in the waking state. Yet the knowing principle is the same. The consciousness is the same in the waker, in the dreamer, in the deep sleep state. And the objects that are known are changing. So waking state objects are different from the dream state objects, are different from object in the deep sleep state, where the object in the deep sleep state is nothing but the Mula Vidya, the fundamental ignorance. And objects keep changing, but the conscious entity that is experiencing experiences doesn't change. I am an experiencer in the waking state of the waking state problems. I am an experiencer of the dream state of the dream experiences, and I am an experience of the deep sleep state, experiencing the deep sleep state ignorance. And the objects that are experiencing is changing, but the subject, knower I am, will not. I am a waker, I am a knower, I am a dreamer, I am a deep sleeper, I am is the same that transcends all the three states, but yet different from all the three states. Therefore, it says, Evam Sthanatrayopyeka Samvit Tadvad Dinantare. Evam Sthanatrayoho. So Sthanatrayo, these three states of experience of waking state and a dream state and a deep sleep state. Evam Sthanatrayoho api eka samvitu. There is only one conscious entity there who is a knower. So I can recollect the experience of the dream because I am the same one who experienced. So this experiencer, a knower, is the same. I am the knower of the deep sleep state because I am the experience of the deep sleep state. Therefore I am recollecting that experience. I say I slept very well in the deep sleep state. And all that is, therefore, there is only one knower. Then who is the knower is going to go into more details in the next sloka, that is the sloka 7. Masabda yuga kalpeshu gata gammishvane katha nodeti nastamecheka samvidesha swayam prabha. Together. Masabda yuga kalpeshu gata gammishvane katha nodeti nastamecheka samvidesha swayam prabha. So here, so I am not only the knower not only the knower of the waking state and the dream state and the deep sleep state. Now it is true all today, day today, tomorrow same, day after tomorrow same. This is past yesterday the same. I am the knower of the waking state and the dream state and the deep sleep state. I am traveling all across the three states because only three states are being experienced by anybody. Either I am a waker or I am a dreamer or I am a deep sleeper. In the waker I may be giving other sorts of experience also. I am lying down, I am standing, I am reading, I am doing all other things in that, but still I am awake there. And I am a dreamer, I may be going through different states experience in the dream world, and I am in the deep sleep state. My experience is homogeneous absence of space, time and objects. And all that is true today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, 1 month from now, 1 year from now, and masa abda yuga kalpeshu. So therefore, so masa, month, abda, year, yuga, and yuga is the whole yuga, Kali Yuga and so on. Kalpa means many yugas together forms a kalpeshu. Gata gamyeshu anekata. So gata, past. So agamya, gata agamyeshu, gata agamyeshu. So agamyeshu, that which is coming in the future. And so anekata, in many ways that come, there is only one samvitu. That is one conscious entity. So here we need to go a little bit. He's talking about kalpa and all that. Gata, past. So not only in this life and the lives before and lives after also, because I am not there in this yuga and kalpeshu. So we're talking about who is that knower. Is this knower? I am the knower of the previous lives also, and why do I can't recollect? All these things become important at this stage to understand clearly. And then it says, no deti nastamet cheka samvidesha swayam prabha. Na udeti na astameti eka sambit esha swayam prabha. Analyze that second line later. Let's analyze who exactly is I am. When I say I am a waker, I am a dreamer, I am a deep sleeper. So who is that I am plus adding something to my state for me to define. And that is essentially the problem in here. Can I have just I am without any states? There is a waking state and a dream state and a deep sleep state, and in all these states there is objects there, objects of experience there. Can there be any one? Can there be I am, the sum with pure consciousness without having any states of experience? Some say yes, some say no. But let's analyze this clearly. This is yes or no, and what exactly pure existent consciousness that I am. So from the fundamentals of Advaita Vedanta, this is, if we have to go to scriptural pramana, it says what was there before creation. It says in one Upanishad, it says existence alone was there before creation. Sadeva saumya idamagram asit ekameva advitiyam. Existence alone was there before creation. And after creation, same existence is expressing in terms of different things. So creation is nothing but what was there before the creation, which is ekameva advitiyam, which means it is one without a second, and therefore it is infinite. That existence which is infinite, and that existence became many. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, in the 6th chapter, called Sadvidya. And in that existence, it says the existence alone was there, and later it says that existence saw tadaichada bahusyam tada eeti. It saw. So existence that can see, only conscious entity can see. So therefore that existence that was there before creation is a conscious entity, and therefore it is not only Sat and it is Chit. In another Upanishad, says Atma was there before creation. Atma means the self, which is a conscious entity, alone was there before creation, and that itself became many. So in all these Upanishads, there is a samanvayam. If you coherently analyze all statements, says what was there before creation is pure existent conscious entity, Sat, Chit, and that is being limitless entity is also Ananda. So what was there? I am is pure existent consciousness coming from the individual, and that from the individual point, that who is the knower here? Who is the Jiva? Says looking from the totality, that totality says it is pure existent consciousness, and it is ekam eva advitiyam, one without a second, which means that there is no sajati vijati swagata bedham. That means there is no difference of any kind. It's a homogeneous mass of pure existent consciousness. Existence, which is same, it's a conscious existence. Consciousness is Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is infinite. Existence is infinite. So consciousness cannot be different from existence, because then otherwise we will end up two infinities. Therefore, existence and consciousness has to exist also. So existent and is same as consciousness, and that is infinite. From that point, there is nothing other than existent consciousness. And from that point, there is no question of Jiva, and there is no question of the knowing and knower duality is not there. So it's beyond anything. It is not essentially deep sleep state where there is an ignorance of knowing known duality. There is a Mula Avidya and there is an experience of Mula Avidya, because I am recollecting that experience. So there is an inherent duality, but it's not experienced as the duality in that state, but recollected in the waking state. And therefore, it's not like a deep sleep state, it's not like a pure ignorance, it is beyond all that. And that's why the scripture itself in the Mandukya Upanishad, this is after teaching the three states of the waking state and the dream state and the deep sleep state, it goes into the fourth state as called, say, Nanta Pragyam, Na Bhai Pragyam, No Bhayata Pragyam, Na Pragyana Ghanam, Na Pragyam, Na Pragyam, Dushtam Vyaharya. So that it's neither not the waking state, not the dream state, not deep sleep state, not any intermediate states, and it is that which is beyond all the states, and at the same time it is there in all the states. Because Prapanchopasharam Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vijnana. That Atma, the self that I am, is that Turiyam, that is as the fourth state, not really fourth, because it is different from all that, but yet it pervades all the three. So what is that? Number one, it is pure existent consciousness that I am. It is one without a second. There is no duality whatsoever. And from that point, there is no realization. There is no duality. There is no knower known principle there. And it is different from the deep sleep state. And nothing can be talked about it. Because any talking involves duality. So, navagachati damanaha, neither the speech can go there or the mind can go there. So from that pure I am, nothing can be said. So anything is only that became many. So we have to understand from the Jiva point who exactly is the Jiva. It's going to talk more about the Avachedavada and Abhasavada, and we give just simple understanding to understand the rest of the slokas more clearly, and therefore I'm giving a little bit more deeper here than what the text is, because we come back to the text unless we understand. So we should understand first, pure existent consciousness is homogeneous, that is Sat, which is same as Chit, and being infinite, limitless, therefore Ananda. So it is Satchidanandam. Scripture calls Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So that Brahman, and from that point there is no creation. Brahman point, infinite, cannot create anything. Why? Because in creation involves a modification, and therefore Brahman cannot create anything. Why? Brahman being infinite. Brahman means infinite. So infinite cannot undergo modification, because there is nothing else other than Brahman. If something other than Brahman, then Brahman is not Brahman, because Brahman gets limited and therefore it's not infinite. Infinite means there cannot be anything other than Brahman, and that anything other than Brahman, infinite, cannot undergo modification. Therefore, it cannot create also. But I am seeing creation. Yes, you are seeing it. Now from the point of who is a seer, we have to analyze the system. Are seeing is real or not real? Because you say you are seeing, therefore it is real. That's what you say. And therefore all the theories and philosophers say, because I am seeing it, the world is real, and so on and so forth. But Advaita Vedanta says, Scripture says, that's why it's called Shastra Pramanam. Scripture says the pure existent consciousness is undifferentiable, therefore there is no distinctions of any kind, therefore there cannot be any creation. Therefore, if there is a creation, it's only apparent creation but not really creation. Just as the scripture says, just as the gold becoming into many ornaments. His gold is getting created, it's not really becoming, because gold remains as a gold. So it is transformationless transformation, yet there is a transformation. In the same way, Brahman, as though transforming into many, so the Aichadabha, let me become many, and he became many. So therefore, many is only apparent and not really real. And just as in the dream state I see many apparent things which for a dreamer thinks it's real, but the tiger that is chasing me is real, I think, therefore I am trying to run away from the tiger. The forest that is there, and then all those things are real as far as the dream. Only when I am awakened to higher state of understanding, higher state of consciousness, I recognize that what I experience of that reality is not really real, but apparently real enough for me to suffer, but not really real. So what is real? Real is being defined as, we mentioned already, Trikala Abaditam, that which remains the same in all periods of time. Ekameva Advitiyam, that which has no difference of any kind, no difference of same species or different species or Sajati Vijati or internal differences of any kind cannot be there. And that cannot undergo modification, therefore is only apparent modification, just as apparently the gold is becoming into ornaments, and the ring is different from a bangle, is different from a necklace, is different from a bracelet, yet it is nothing but gold. Ring is a gold, bangle is gold, necklace is gold only. From the gold point there are no varieties, but so why is it become? This is my vibhuti, it's glory of the gold to become many. It's called malleable, ductile, therefore it can become many ornaments, yet remaining as a gold. Same way Brahman appearing as many, therefore the whole world is nothing but objects. Objects are known, inert things are nothing but for the Brahman only. What about the knower? Knower is the consciousness, but where is the consciousness coming in? So it is reflected consciousness. So even though the consciousness is infinite, it gets reflected depending upon the instrument of reflection. You have to be very careful here. Just as the light is everywhere, depending upon the object that is reflecting the light, the reflection occurs. If it is a red object, I see it as a red. The blue object, I see it as a blue. If it is a colorless, I see it colorless. If it is a white object, I see it's white. So even though the light that is falling on it is has all the colors, the Vibgayar or Vibjayar, the 7 colors are there. And that 7 colors object, the light falls on the object and gets reflected. And the reflection depends upon the medium of reflection. And therefore, red object, what does it do? It absorbs all colors except the red color. Therefore, I see that object as a red. Even though white light is falling, reflection is only red. Therefore, I see it as a red. A blue object, I see it as a blue because the blue light is only reflected. So the reflection depends on the reflecting medium and attributes of the reflecting medium, but not the original light that is falling on it. Same way, all pervading consciousness, which is of the nature of the pure existent consciousness, when it falls on the, as though, quote unquote, falls on the object, the reflection depends upon the reflecting medium. So those objects that does not have the subtle body only reflects as pure existence, and that which has the subtle body reflects both the existence and consciousness depending upon how the purity of the subtle body. If the subtle body is extremely pure, then it reflects not only the Sat and Chit but Ananda also. So it is the reflection of the original consciousness. Depending upon the medium of reflection. As long as the medium of reflection is there, reflection will occur. Because original consciousness is all the time there. Original consciousness, which is all pervading, infinite, never changes, And that's what is now udeti na astameti. Neither it's born nor it exists. If it is born, we have to ask what was there before creation? What was there before its birth? If it is born, that means it was not there before. If it is not there before, what was there? What is it? Was it existing? It was there means it was existing. That means existence was there. So it cannot have dependence. If the existence was there, who is the knower of that existence? So conscious entity, because it's not, conscious entity cannot be born. If they born, then it is the birth of consciousness. So it is neither be born nor undergo destruction. It is that which is original all the time can be, and therefore it becomes a time bound if it is a birth, and therefore it is limited. That which has no limitations of any kind has to be infinite. So therefore Brahman includes not only the spatial limitations are not there, it is not the time limitations. Therefore Sadeva Saumya Idamagnamasid, before creation, before and after are a concept of time, but here it is picture using it for convenience to communicate the knowledge, otherwise it cannot communicate. And therefore, only for sake of communication, it's using the before and after, but the time itself is part of the creation only. Remember, time is sequential, observations have to be there. And therefore, there has to be event 1 and event 2. Observer is different from observed, and therefore it can only occur in the waking state and the dream state. And waking state and dream state are part of the creation of the total states. Comes from the creation aspect. So from the point of who is an observer, who is a knower, that's what we are analyzing. Who is the pramata? When I say I know and I know this is a known object, and a knower is different from the known. Somewhere, the conscious entity, that is knower, is different from the known. Who is that conscious entity? If we analyze it, we are analyzing that the total consciousness is all over. When it gets reflected in the subtle body, which is essentially in the intellect, when it gets reflected, then the reflection becomes as though conscious entity, because of the nature of the medium reflection. And therefore the buddhi acquires a borrowed consciousness from the original consciousness, and that is what is called adhyasa, a superimposition of the consciousness on top of the buddhi, making as though buddhi is intellect, making as though it is intellect. Just as when we look into the sky in the night, we see in the full moon night, we see a moon, and we see moon is shining there. So how is the moon shining? Moon by itself does not have the luminosity, but it's shining by what? Because it's shining by the reflection. Reflection of what? Reflection of the sunlight that is falling on it. And that reflected sunlight makes the moon luminous. The original sunlight is falling. From the original sunlight, as far as it's concerned, it is just all pervading. And it doesn't care whether the moon is there or the another planet is there. It just illumines everything. And the reflection of each one depends on the reflecting medium, and therefore the moon reflects, and therefore not only it is reflecting, in the process it is becoming a self-luminous entity, as though it is a luminous entity in the sky. Where is the luminosity? It is a borrowed luminous. In the same way, when the consciousness falls on the buddhi, and the buddhi reflects that consciousness, and by process of reflection, the buddhi becomes a localized conscious entity. Moon is becoming a localized luminous entity in the sky. The buddhi is becoming a localized luminous entity or conscious entity, and that conscious entity is the appearing as the knower, because without the buddhi I cannot know. I need a buddhi. Say, if you don't know, you don't have buddhi or what? So we accuse because he is not knowing, because he is not using his buddhi. So I need buddhi, I need the intellect to know anything. Without the intellect, I cannot know anything. How did the knowing principle, which is conscious, that means buddhi is conscious of now, how did it get consciousness? By reflection process. That's called chidabhasa. So Chidabhasa means reflected consciousness by the Chit, which is Buddhi, Antahkaranam. So we have original consciousness, we have the Buddhi instrument to reflect, and we have a reflecting. And the Buddhi is acting as though localized consciousness, localized knower. So what I know is different from what you know, because now we are talking about the Buddhi point. And how did Buddhi goes Masa Abda Yuga Kalpeshu is talking about Masa Abda Yuga Kalpam. So which is the one that is Masa Abda and all that is knowing about the times and all that? We will analyze more deeply. It is the localized Buddhi that is traveling in the time or in the space-wise. And that's what we are analyzing now in the deeper aspect. Who exactly is the Pramata knower? We have the original consciousness. We have a reflecting medium, which is Buddhi, which is not conscious entity, but became conscious entity by the reflection process. Now, because of the sunlight only, the moon is becoming a luminous entity. Without the sunlight, moon cannot shine. And moon became a luminous entity, is a borrowed luminous. And it is now localized, and the localized moon now can illumine the objects on the earth on the full moon night, and I can see objects. Now what is the object? I am seeing the object in what light? In the moonlight. But where is the moonlight? It is the sunlight. Sunlight is what actually I am seeing through the object, through the moon, which is originally from the sunlight. All that is implied. You go into more detail because this has to be exactly understood clearly. Who realizes what? What's consciousness? Who am I? What's investigating? All that has to be clear, otherwise there will be a lot of confusion. In the first chapter itself, everything becomes clear as we go along this Panchadashi text. With this we stop. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Jagannath.